Hello and welcome to today's Cosmic Connection, where we're going to look at today's planetary movements and see how their energies and influence may guide us through the day. Today we are looking at Tuesday, October 24th, 2023. One of the busier days this week, with the sun and the moon making connections with Saturn in Pisces, and then the sun and the moon connecting with each other. We also see the moon in Pisces making connections with Mercury in Scorpio, Mars in Scorpio, and Jupiter in Taurus in retrograde motion. So a day of harmonizing our outer self and our boundaries, routines, and structures, as well as connecting to our watery withins to enable us to step forward in our outer world in ways that support the things we are nourishing into growth, into being. A day where we can call on our transforming communications and think to enable us to act on those transformations to bring things into being in order to step into our infinite abundance. As the moon continues to grow in illumination, we are being called to wrap up the cycles of the past, as the full moon coming on Saturday is going to close out the last eclipse season, the last eclipse cycles, bringing closure that is going to transform us into a new beginning. A very powerful time to leave things in the past and get aligned in our beings and our energies. In the early hours of the morning, we see the sun newly in Scorpio, forming a harmonizing trine with Saturn in Pisces in retrograde motion. The sun in Scorpio, the sun entered Scorpio yesterday, bringing our outer self, our physical being, into the transformative and deep sign of Scorpio. The sun in Scorpio is a time of bringing transformation into our outer being, allowing us to change the actions and paths we take in order to rebirth ourselves in our newest form. It is a time of shedding our outer self, the selves that belong to past versions of ourselves, in order for us to stand in our vulnerability, in order to regenerate into something new. It is the energy of protection that comes from adapting and changing as we learn and grow. A very powerful transit that is going to push us into the changes we wish to grow, the ones that are now manifesting in the world around us. It is about seeing the bigger picture and allowing ourselves to be, giving us a chance to connect with our inner being, our inner changing self. From this interconnection, we are going to be able to bring in those structures and routines that we need to support this harmonizing trine with Saturn, the planet of boundaries, routines, patterns, the foundational energy we use to get things done, to build our path, the energy that allows us to move through life in a timely fashion, bringing the things we are working towards us fast. Whilst in Pisces, the mutable water sign, the last sign of the zodiac, Saturn has been learning to adapt and become flexible to bring a fluidity to the mechanisms we use to build and grow. This has allowed us to begin to meet ourselves where we stand, as we are different in each day, allowing us to use the routines, patterns, and habits that benefit the different forms of ourselves. This has allowed a fluidity and flexibility to come to our often rigid energy of Saturn, allowing us to get more things done, to build in ways that are in alignment with ourself in all of our forms. This meeting of the sun, our outer self, in new transformation, in new forms, with the taskmaster planet Saturn, the ability to bring order and structure to our functioning in order to get things done, is a perfect start to bringing those changes into being, as we are being asked to act in ways that are consistent to our growth. This harmonizing connection is empowering us to take actions and adapt our routines and patterns in order to bring depth to our outer being, in order to bring our emotional selves into being. As this trine is connecting two zodiac signs of water, It is going to amplify this connection of our inner and emotional intuitive self. This amplification to our feelings and how we guide ourselves from our emotions is really going to allow us to feel the changes and transformations we are seeing on the outside, allowing us to decide if they are in alignment with our inner flow, bringing our feelings and emotions and how we react to things into play to change the areas that are fixed, that are restricting our flow into our newest being. Next, we see the Pisces waxing gibbous moon form a conjunction with Saturn. In Pisces, which means that it is also forming a trine with the sun in Scorpio. This alignment of our inner self, our emotional self, intuitive self, with our structural self is going to bring about this alignment of our inner self with our structures and routines and patterns that are going to be harmonious with our outer self. Connecting these three planetary bodies in harmony, a harmonious connection that is going to bring alignment between our inner and our outer selves, and how we turn up in our routines and habits, and how we build our foundations and nourish our continuous growth. A powerful complementary connection that is going to reinforce this harmonizing connection to our inner flowing soul. As conjunctions tie energies together, it is really going to allow our inner self, our emotional self, to get behind our actions, allowing us to step into growth in ways that will strengthen us, that will increase our momentum to grow. For some, this alignment of inner self and our taskmaster is going to push us into making the changes we want in our outer world, pushing us into action and focusing us on our goals. For others, it is going to allow us to turn up in small ways that bring big change, allowing us to adjust the ways our feelings and emotions affect how we get things done and the tasks we take. This is going to allow us to build healthy routines and habits that support us in our inner and outer forms, aiding us in reaching towards our goals. Excellent energies to keep pushing us forward to aid both inner and outer self in finding routines and habits and practices that will enforce the boundaries we hold, allowing us to support ourselves on a foundational level that will always hold. This will allow some of us to transform the ways they see themselves on a foundational level, a level that will change the structures of their growth. For others, it is going to allow the patterns and routines that stick to flow in our existence, allowing us to bring practice and discipline in fluid forms. This will allow us to turn up in both our inner and outer worlds in ways that support us at a level of our structure. So turning up in our inner and outer worlds to support our structure. That will aid us in holding and adapting our boundaries and encouraging us to connect to our many forms to find activities that aid our alignment. Next, we see the Pisces waxing gibbous moon meet Mercury in Scorpio in a harmonious trine aspect. Trine aspects are aspects of harmony that bring planetary bodies in similar elemental signs together, amplifying that elemental energy and blending the planetary energies together to move forward. This connection of Scorpio and Pisces that is dominating our day, bringing fixed water energy into contact with mutable water energy, allowing us to change those fixed watery patterns that keep us restricted or planted in place, amplifying the flowing energy of water that has the ability to move the strongest energies through, allowing them to go, making the path they take their own. The Pisces moon is about bringing balance to the changes we have been making as we end one cycle and get ready to begin another. It is a liminal time where the planetary movements are wrapping up their journey as they reach the last sign of the zodiac, and thus bringing the cycle to a close. In liminal energies, there is this energy of death and rebirth, in release and growth, the energies of infinite potential in all its forms. A very powerful energy that will guide us into balance with the flow of our existence as we see the duality of our existence, the duality of our being, and how we are ever changing and flowing, guiding us into the flow of our life and bringing a trust to the process that we have never had. Mercury is the planet of our communication, our mind, our processing, and forms of expression. It is the messages we receive and give. It is the energy of the mental realm and our connection to both ourselves, others, and the world, but also the mysteries of the unknown. Mercury in Scorpio is all about digging into the depths of our watery self, our emotional self, in order to bring things to the surface that need to be worked through, released, healed, and grown. This is going to allow us to look at our communication forms and where they come from, allowing us to bring emotional intelligence into the ways we communicate, enabling us to see where we are being triggered and where we are being whole. This is going to enable us to transform the ways we communicate and how we express ourselves, encouraging us to rebirth our ideas and how we influence these ideas with our processing and expression. It is going to allow us to learn to protect ourselves by ensuring we are using words and communication forms that align with the messages we want to be sending. This is going to allow us to get deep with our center of communication, with our mind, with the ways we process and see things, to allow us to see which emotional mechanisms stand behind our communication forms and the ways we interact and communicate with ourselves and others. A very powerful transit that is going to allow us to change the ways we communicate, the ways we think, the ways we interpret and understand the things around us, enabling us to transform our thinking and the ways we communicate with ourselves, empowering us to get behind our thoughts and feelings and the ways we allow those thoughts and feelings to be interpreted and felt by others, showing us the importance in how we communicate and the messages we give. This meeting of our inner growing self, bringing our cycles into completion and our changing forms of communication, is really going to allow us to bring a depth to this ending cycle that is going to shift us into a new way of being, a way that is in alignment with our inner feelings, our inner thoughts, and the ways we bring those feelings and thoughts into understanding, really pushing us to get behind our communication forms in order for us to turn up in our actions. This is going to allow us to communicate in deep and honest ways about the ways we are feeling in order for us to learn who those feelings influence, or how those influence, This is going to allow us to communicate in deep and honest ways about the ways we are feeling in order for us to learn how these feelings influence our thoughts and ultimately our actions. A really powerful aspect that is going to encourage our inner flowing self to combine with our deep messages to enable us to change the ways that we express and communicate, allowing us to find a form of communication that is expansive in its own. The next trine that we see is between the moon and Mars in Scorpio. So the moon in Pisces and Mars in Scorpio. Mars is the planet of action, of drive, of our motivation to turn up and act in the world and the actions we choose to take to move us forward. Mars is at home in Scorpio as it is ruled by this zodiac sign. Scorpio is about getting to the bottom of things and allowing us to see the truth they hold. Then we can use this truth to allow ourselves to be completely transformed. While the active planet Mars is great at stimulating and provoking change, giving us a reason to act in transformative ways, Mars in Scorpio it gives us the power to unleash our drive and ambition, encouraging us to act in intentional ways. This is going to drive us into action, into transformation. For some, this is going to push us to turn up consistently day after day as we gradually build change, allowing things to transform in the flow of our being. For others, this is going to push them into action in new, unexpected ways that bring results we may not quite understand, driving us to do things in different ways. For others, it is going to drive them into change that could lead to burnout if not maintained in accordance with our individual needs. Whatever actions Mars in Scorpio is going to push you to take, it is going to drive you to make changes happen, to get things done, to dig deep and uncover the truth. It is going to empower us to act in the ways we have communicated, allowing us to get our actions behind our thoughts and feelings, bringing us into this powerful energy of manifestation that will continue to aid our growth. We've been building from this long-term form, a place that is connected to our inner soul, really aiding us to get behind our actions and allow things to transform and change as we ourselves transform and change. The last aspect of the day that we see is the moon in Pisces, connecting with Jupiter in Taurus in retrograde motion in a cooperative sextile. Jupiter is the planet of abundance, of expansion, of our abilities to continually evolve and grow. It is the energy of infinite potential. It is the ability to grow our skills and talents and bring them into being. Whilst in Taurus, Jupiter has been encouraging us to nourish our growth, bringing loving, caring energy to our manifestations in the ways we are supporting ourselves in our growth. This has allowed us to bring this acceptance to the process that has enabled us to dedicate our hard work to the process and encouraged it to flourish in its own. It has allowed us to remove the expectations and limitations we have placed on our manifestations, those limitations that expecting specific outcomes has brought, freeing things up for unexpected abundance. While in retrograde motion, Jupiter has been expanding those inner restrictions we hold in order to bring them into the light to be examined, understood, accepted, released, and incorporated into our growth. A really deep aspect that has been allowing us to remove the restrictions and limitations we may hold on our potential growth, really empowering us to open up to our own potential in its whole. This connection of the growing moon in the last sign of the zodiac, the sign of balance, of cycles, of completion, and the trust in those cycles, with our abundance, our expansion, our infinite potential, is really going to bring this luck, this opportunity of abundance into play at the end of our day, where we have been working through our deep emotions and actions to make sure we are bringing the changes we need into being from our inner and outer self, allowing us to adapt the routines and structures we use in our continuous growth. This is going to allow us to amplify those things we have been working hard on, that we have been investing our time and energy in, that we have been consistently turning up for, allowing us to manifest things into abundance. For some, this is going to show up in unexpected income, money, savings, something that gives you a break in your expenses and gives you some extra money to spend. Remember to use those extra pennies to invest in yourself and keep that energy of unexpected expansion and wealth going. For others, it is going to be this completion of an idea we have been working on. From this completion, we are now ready to bring things into being, into our material growth, allowing it to expand. For others, this is going to validate the steps we have been taking as we continue to find balance, we continue to find abundance, we continue to grow, allowing ourselves to nourish ourselves on all levels. A very expansive transit that is going to allow a lot of us to step into some new form of growth. A very empowering day, aiding us in changing our soul, our changing being, empowering us to take action, to turn up with consistency, and to get our thoughts, feelings, and expressions behind where we are focusing on going, encouraging us to continue to nourish our seeds of growth, watering our garden and allowing those things to blossom in their own, aiding us in respecting our boundaries and energies and knowing that we need rest as well as we need to act. Really bringing this unity in how we use and interact with all our forms, and how this unity reflects both in our inner and outer worlds, transforming ourselves from the outside in and the inside out, a cycle that is connected to our thoughts, feelings, and actions. A perfect day to break us into the season of transformation, reminding us that the whole working together in harmony is how we truly bring transformation into material form. So allow yourself to get behind your ideas, your thoughts, your feelings, so you can express yourself in new forms and act in intentional ways that align within your boundaries and enhance your energies flow, your energy forms. Until tomorrow, goodbye, my friends.